Hi, let's talk a little bit about social distancing and what it actually does. And I'm going to give you some examples right here in my own backyard. Little background, I live in central South Carolina, and we have a problem in central South Carolina. It has nothing to do with us getting sick and being exposed to a virus. But what we do have is a problem with our trees. That problem is just what you see here. This tree's been attacked by bark beetles, pine bark beetles. They're all over South Carolina. They have a tendency to get into pine trees when the trees are stressed and don't get good water, and it gets hot and they can't defend themselves that well. Well, I have a grove of pines in my backyard, and those pines are affected. As you can see, there's a number of them that are dead and dying. Right? They all happen to be touching each other. Notice this, touching this, that one touching the one next to it, etc. They're all infected by the pine bark beetles. They get in the pine bark, underneath the bark, and chew them up and cause them to die. Well, we have some trees that have not yet been affected. This tree, for example, has no problem yet. It may, and the reason why I say it may is because it's touching that tree, and the beetles can easily migrate from one tree or move from one tree to another. That one also, all right? But if we go further in my yard, the further out you get from that grove of trees, you'll see that there are fewer and fewer trees that are actually affected. These trees are socially distant from those trees. Let's look around back here. All these pines are perfectly fine. They don't have the beetles in them. All right, a couple of things going on. Number one, they have a barrier. This tree is not affected by the beetles. This tree is not either. It's not a pine tree, it's an oak tree. That's a cherry, another cherry. Those trees don't have or work as a host for the beetles, so there's a gap. Two things. Number one, that gap's preventing the pine bark beetles from easily making it into these pines from that grove back there. So there's a social gap, and the trees are between, the oak trees are between the infected trees and those that are unaffected. All right. The idea is we need to do the same thing. Stay away from each other, and if you can, make sure that there's a buffer between you and people who could be infected. Interesting thing about pine bark beetles, you don't even know they're there until after they've attacked the tree. All right, so that tree most likely has been affected, don't even know it yet. All right. So stay away from each other. You don't want it, just like you don't want pine bark beetles in your backyard.